Tales from the Norse Legends. The creation of the universe. Tales from the Norse Legends. Creation of the universe. In the beginning was Ginnungagap, the great emptiness, the unending void. It was a region so vast that it went on in all directions forever, with room for 1 billion universes. There was no up nor down in Ginnungagap, no light, no darkness, no north, south, east, nor west. There was no sound in Ginnungagap, yet no silence either, only endless space. No one knows the secret of creation, how something could be formed from nothing. But millions of eons before our universe existed, 2 distinct regions came into being, 2 completely different worlds, the lands of fire and the lands of ice. The land of fire was called Jotunheim, called the destroyers of the world, and it was a truly terrible place. There was nothing in Muspelheim except black, burning rocks, continually erupting volcanoes, molten lava, and the sky permanently filled with black, choking smoke. Howling winds blew clouds of flames in Ginnungagap through the sky. Volcanic dust filled everything, making great sheets of flames burst sporadically from the burning ground that was continuously cracking and splitting. Nothing lived in Muspelheim at first, except for one being, the dreaded Surt, the fire demon, whose dwelling place was in his very place there. Surt was the first being there, spending eons forging his doomsday weapon, the fire sword, which he was destined to wield come Ragnarok, in the twilight of the gods, when he would burst forth to take the entire universe. The other place, Niflheim, was a very different place than Niflheim. While equally vast and desolate, it was cold and frozen, the land of ice and snow, where Niflheim was all roaring fires and heat. The winds of Niflheim never ceased blowing, and they blew great torrents of freezing rain across endless worlds. Huge glaciers of snow and ice cracked and split. Now when life sprang up in Ginnungagap, it did not happen in a matter of minutes. For eons, in the air lay sleeping a giant, and the various elements he was composed of mixed and melted. After a long time, he solidified and began to sweat. From beneath his left armpit, a male and a female were born, and soon after that, his right foot mated with his left, and he gave birth to a 6-headed giant. These first creatures would found the races of ice and fire giants. Elsewhere in Ginnungagap, another being had been born, following the merging of fire and ice. This being was known as an enormous cow named Zadumla. Now Adumla was formed at the same time, but none of the poison of the liver god had gone into creation. It was formed from the pure ice and fire. Since no grass or trees existed for it to feed on, Adumla had to eat on the licking of the ice. And as she fed, 4 great streams of milk flowed from her udders, feeding the giant. Now these being mentioned so vast, the primal beings, from whom all the other gods and giants and men would descend, all of them had been formed of the nothingness of Ginnungagap, between the realms of Muspelheim and Niflheim. Those which had been created from the pure ice and fire were good, but those who were tainted by the black eruption of the liver god were evil. Such is the way of the nature of good and evil. They cannot exist peacefully. And, sooner or later, the gods and giants would clash in a roaring madness of battle. The gods that remained would create the world, chopping and hammering at the body of the giant that created the earth, forming sweeping plains where they bashed it flat, and rocky mountain ranges underneath the deep dry seabeds. Then they squeezed the blood out of his flesh. His blood filled all the oceans, cities and rivers. They took his teeth and bones and smashed them up, making them into rocks and lofty crags and sea cliffs. And grinding the bones to powder, they formed the sandy beaches and deserts. And where the flesh, contaminated by Midgard's corruption, fell, the races of dwarves and trolls were created, spontaneously, appearing as maggots do on the rotting flesh of fish. Having created the earth, the gods found it to be a dark and gloomy place, depressing the spirits. And so, to make it more habitable, they decided to create the sky, which they made from the skull of Ymir, lifting it up between the three. To hold the sky in place, they ordered 4 of the recently born dwarfs to support its 4 corners. The dwarves he named North, South, East, and West. Heaven and earth being created, the gods then took the blazing sparks of the firmament above Niflheim and scattered them into the heavens, creating the stars. They took the eyebrows of Ymir and formed them into huge cliffs, unassailable palisades of ice and rock, creating a walled citadel in the center of the earth which they named Midgard, or the Middle Fortress, which would be the home of man.